Athantia, can you please open your...
أرحب بجميع متابعينا في اليوم الخامس من أسبوع العلوم العربي، أكبر احتفالية افتراضية للعلوم والتكنولوجيا في الوطن العربي عبر الإنترنت، والمستمرة حتى 23 أغسطس 2020 تحت شعار رؤى مستقبلية. نبدأ اليوم بجلسة التعريف بمبادرة محاضرون بلا حدود، والتي تقدمها لنا الدكتورة أثانسيا نيكولاو، الفيزيائية والباحثة ما بعد الدكتوراه قسم الفيزياء جامعة لا سابينزا في روما. محاضرون بلا حدود هي منصة تطوعية تعمل على استغلال الثروة المعرفية المؤقتة ودور العلماء في نشر العلم أثناء رحلاتهم المختلفة، سواء الرحلات العلمية أو الترفيهية. أود التنويه أن هذه الجلسة ستتوفر مع ترجمة فورية، وعلى مستمعينا إذا أردت الترجمة الرجاء الضغط على أيقونة الترجمة على أقصى يمين أسفل الشاشة واختيار القناة الصوتية الثانية اللغة الفرنسية، وستقوم بسماع الترجمة الأوتوماتيكية من مترجمنا الفوري الدكتور محمد أبو العلا. And now with Dr. Athanasia Nikolaou, the physicist and postdoctoral researcher, Department of Physics, La Sapienza University of Rome, Italy, co-founder of Lectures Without Borders. Lectures Without Borders is a voluntary platform exploiting temporary knowledge wealth of traveling professors. Duration of this session is 30 minutes, and we can have the chance to answer the questions at the last 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. If I get it correctly, that's my time to join you now. I would like a confirmation because it's my first time.
Please. Yeah, yes, please.
Thank you very much, Mahmoud. I will share now my screen. Is it possible to see properly?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your invitation today. It's been a great pleasure to be invited by Mohammed in the Arab Science Week and to give you an insight of what is Lecturers Without Borders. Myself, I'm a lecturer and researcher, Athanasia Nikolaou, and I am a physicist. Together with other researchers, we started this organization. And I'm going to tell you more about what it's all about. It all started in Nepal in 2017 by a personal travel of one of our co-founders. What happened there is that they visited a village and they started talking about complex science to kids of no older than 15 years old. They understood a lot, and this started the whole story of Lectures Without Borders. 4 people of us decided to start this effort, and I'm presenting here those who are absent. Dr. Lyubov, she's a mathematician working at Bell Labs in Paris, France. Dr. Delphine Zemp, who is a climatologist based in Germany. Mikhail Kotyakov, he's a math teacher, and he's based also in Germany, in Munich. Myself, and all of us, and that's something to keep in mind, we have never met at the same place simultaneously. We have met with each other in different times, but not at the same place simultaneously. And that is a characteristic of modern science I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to make a small introduction on science and society then and today. What is the motivation for doing our organization? What is the stereotypic scientist and what is the modern scientist? I'm going to talk about the mobility of the scientists in nowadays world and why do we need a shift in the change in the science paradigm. Excuse me. I'm going to present to you LeWiBo as well as how our activities changed before COVID and after COVID. Firstly, it's good to remember that science and society are not always interacting, have not been always interacting. There is a stereotype in the traditional view of the scientist. The scientist is supposed to be isolated, located, focused on personal effort, the things that the scientists find are too complex, and that is devoid of any social character. However, this view is challenged because the scientists have always been interacting. I have here a picture of the famous Copenhagen conference. The exchanges in the scientific world are very important. Therefore, conferences started being organized as early as the beginning of the last century. The picture here has some very familiar faces. You may notice and recognize Albert Einstein in the center, as well as Marie Curie a bit on the left. This was the 5th Solvay conference on electrons and photons, and it was invitation only. The particular part of this conference is that the foundations of quantum mechanics were set there. That was a revolution in the scientific world. The principles of quantum mechanics have been complex, but yet have not been communicated to the general public. And that's because the conference was within closed walls. So it was invitation only. Therefore, this gave us the idea that science is something secluded and it's not to be shared with the wider public. But let's go a bit to today. We do a fast forward. There are conferences that still happen today, not as revolutionary as the ones in the beginning of the century of the revolution in physics, but they have advances in science. And what is happening there is exchanges, and a lot of experts concentrated at a specific place for a very little time. We collected anonymous data from scientific hubs to address how often do these people travel. We found that the work travels per year are about 2 to 5 for 50% of the researchers. And that the total travels per year can be a bit more because they combine also personal travels. And those raise to more than 5 per year, and they concern 40% of the researchers. Therefore, there is a high mobility. There is an untapped opportunity of traveling that is taking place in the scientific world. And it is, of course, also skewed towards the institutions that can afford to pay such travels. Therefore comes the question, why do we need a shift in paradigm? The scientists have been interacting the way they are since a long time, and they have been successful in what they do. At least in terms of the hard science. The reason we need a shift is because the society needs it. The travels of scientists are an untapped opportunity to share knowledge with the local communities. The knowledge of experts is paid by taxpayers and is a societal good. Therefore, it should be shared. Science is also not an elitist profession. It should not be constrained to the few. Actually, if it is constrained to the few, it devoids the public from getting from information that is important for its survival. The science helps people to be more aware of the changes around them and understand the global changes that happen much faster without being afraid, or at least being the best way they can be informed. The other reason, an additional one, is the sustainability. There has been a lot of travel going on even before the pandemic, and the sustainability of such costs of CO2, carbon units, don't come easily. It is something we have to think about. Those of us who are privileged enough to travel across the world should think of it as a privilege that can be used for societal good. Therefore, here you see an excerpt of one of our articles in Science magazine, where together with other scientists, we suggested ways for making science sustainable. Therefore, there are more than one reasons to make this happen. And now comes the paradigm of LeWiBo, Lecturers Without Borders. The shortcut is the LeWiBo for easiness. We decided to make two networks, actually connect two networks with each other and exchange knowledge. The one network is the one of schools, which is educational institutions and are stable in space and time. They're always somewhere on the world. The other network is the traveling scientists. So the traveling scientists are normally based in their host institution, but they don't travel every day. Therefore, they are able to travel every now and then. And what we are doing and collaborating with them is to ask them to give a lecture of a topic that is not very high in scientific complexity. We also offer help for them to simplify their topic. They let us know the travel plans that they have early enough, and then we find a matching school. So we match them with a school that is able to host a lecture and understand a topic that otherwise they would have never heard of. About the mobility of the researchers, we are particularly interested, and we collect data anonymously in order to assess better the potential, in order to see where are the most popular places where the scientists visit. So far, we collaborate with the Open Humans Foundation for sharing this data, and we found that most of the travel occurs in the United States, India, Brazil, in Turkey, Greece, Denmark, Indonesia, and of course, this comprises the database of the scientists that collaborate with us. We need a much bigger sample for addressing the global quiz. But however, the United States, for example, is important because it points to the fact that there are a lot of conferences organized in this continent. Therefore, a lot of scientists tend to go there. What we have already done in our 4 years of existence, from 2017, almost 4, is lectures. So we managed to give a lot of lectures by only using volunteering work, both of us and of the researchers that give the lectures. We have managed to raise in a number of lectures within the years until 2019, and you can see a small drop in 2020. Of course, this relates to the physical constraints of traveling that were imposed globally because of the pandemic. Every one of us has been affected in a way or another, and this part as well. However, we still managed to do lectures, even if the lockdown happened in March, and that's because we moved online a lot of our activity. The educational network that we have spans almost all continents. We are missing a big part of North America, and we are also missing Australia. However, we have a big presence in Asia, through Russia and Indonesia. We have a big presence in Europe, where we all started, and we also have presence in Africa. There we collaborate with existing networks, and they are always welcoming new approaches and new ways of communicating, even if the language can be a barrier sometimes. So this has been, I presented you now, the principle of operation of the LeWiBo organization before the COVID. We have been able to use and exploit the travels of scientists for getting in contact with schools and learning something new. And we always had a very good feedback from that. However, as you see here, with the COVID, everything changed. We were wondering if the last ones to travel were our researchers, Ana Faustino, Julian Ferreiras. They come from Argentina, and they went to Kenya with the help of Stephanie Ukeyo. So this is to show you that there is a community that is living under this organization, and it self-organizes to a big degree. However, we are also making the contact in the first place. The last lectures we were able to do were March 11th, 2020. So we were wondering, how are we going to move after the COVID-19? How do we take it from there? As you have noticed as well from this conference, a lot of activity and exchange moved online. However, let's see first how much we were affected and how much the whole world was affected. That's a small overview. This is data coming from the Flight Radar 24, and they're updated until the beginning of May to show you the dramatic decrease in the planes and the flights, the commercial flights that took place over the continent. And this is comprising Europe. You see that 70% of the travel was cut. This is a big change. Also, we're able to see with using open data from Google, the relative mobility changes. So we are able to see that in the transit stations, we picked here some of the countries with which you collaborate, there was a dramatic decrease in traffic. And of course, that's because people didn't go to move anymore. So this is a big decrease from 87% to 54%. That's a long decrease. On the other hand, we saw that the residence time at home increased. And these open data are a good indication to understand your status, but they are not always conclusive. And that's something we have to remember as scientists and as citizens. A big discussion was set immediately almost, trying to find the projections of when we are gonna come back to reality, to normality, if I may say. Here you have a map of the shifts in mobility using two colors, blue for Europe and red for China. Of course, China was affected first, therefore it was leading in all the consequences. However, Europe followed a bit after with about 13 days of difference as a whole. After the first lockdown of China, they counted about 36 days, that is 35 days, that is the spot, the gray spot that you see, the gray dot on the plot. And then they started resuming the flights and the mobility, and starting from the domestic ones and not international. Europe was uncertain if it would do that, and indeed it stayed locked down for much longer. However, these models are not transferable from country to country, right? We cannot understand easily the effect of policy factors in every country. Therefore, there is a big uncertainty as to how and when we will come back to normality. However, what we keep from this plot is that the domestic flights resumed in China, trying to have some control over the spread of the virus, and this left out a lot of our researchers, which are international. As we said, most of the travels they did were to other countries. There was also a big response from the schools. Within 2 months, they managed to close all schools, all the governments closed the schools for safety reasons globally. Therefore, there was also no hubs anymore, no local hubs that were concentrating the students. We also noticed that within this period, everything moved to online. So education online increased. However, this was not so easy to keep track of because the students themselves were not motivated. The students themselves were confused and they got the impression that school is optional, given here a témoignage of Daniel Gonzalez Rosa, 17 years old in Latin America, who said that we are under the impression that school is optional, given the circumstances. There was a lack of organization and a lack of motivation followed from the students. So we thought, in order to continue our work and still not stop bringing them in contact, how could we move forward? I'm sorry. The problem was the low motivation of the students and also the fact that no one was addressing the contemporary issues because people were trying to continue with the curriculum. And in that, to address that, helped us the versatility of the LeWiBo researchers. We have mathematicians, physicists, neuroscientists, linguistics experts. We have a lot of versatility in our expertise. Therefore, we were able to be flexible in our solutions and propose some. The first seminar that we proposed and was a big success was seminars on the virology basics. Our researcher, Evgenia Coventon, put together a seminar explaining this in her native language and also in English, but because she comes from Argentina, she was able also to bring it in Spanish. We put a lot of emphasis in being able to address the students in their native language wherever is possible. And this one was very successful and the kids understood a lot and they transferred this knowledge to their parents, therefore trying to curb the panic of misinformation. These seminars were suitable for students over 12 years. The second one that we did is that, as you saw, a lot of conferences moved online. Therefore, this also happened in one big planetary conference, of which I happened to also be part. And we decided to bring together the schools to this conference to give them a peek into how modern science is done, real time. This conference is planned and is to take place in September and October, and our aim is to bring classes to participate in this conference for the first time and see how modern scientists interact, because nothing is more informative than first-hand experience, and that's what we think here in LeWiBo. We have here our LeWiBo advisory board. We have professors from all over the world who support our work and are there whenever we need some more expert knowledge. And you can find more about us in our webpage about who we are and our bios. Here, I'm putting now the summary of this talk, and I'm open to questions. But firstly, if we have to take something away from this message, is that all the work is voluntary work. Therefore, all of us have our normal job, which is the researcher job, and we also work to support this organization. This work, of course, is based on volunteers, and we're very grateful to engage them and also to support them whenever they need expertise in educational access. This is something that is our strength, because we are starting from researchers. Therefore, we know the particularities of this profession, and we try to find a way to make it more accessible to the schools. The seminars are, of course, free of charge for schools and institutes, always. And the network of researchers that we have is matched with a network of schools trying to optimize the availability and interest of both. The versatility of the lecturers' background and their specialization gives us a strength to address more than one topics. There is a network of local community around the schools that supports every effort that we do. And we try to address contemporary science topics. Our activity is international, and we try to spread in more countries wherever there is a welcoming attitude. And we have a lot of international partners. We wouldn't be able to do any of this without the support of local networks and of partners who share the same aims as we do. We have the vision to make science not a scary topic and something that can help bridge together the researchers and the society and give finally the value free to the world. This is our vision, and thank you very much for inviting us. We are open to any questions and also any suggestions for collaboration. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor, for your contribution with us. We will wait for 1 minute. Is there any questions from our participants or attendees? Okay. Okay, for our attendees, if you have any questions for Dr. Athanasia, you can join us. Okay, thank you, Doctor, again for your contribution, and we hope we can communicate. Thank you.
Thank you.
شكرا للحضور على اهتمامهم ومتابعتهم. نود التنويه على أن المحاضرة التالية على هذه القناة ستكون في تمام الساعة 10 بتوقيت المغرب، الساعة 11 بتوقيت مصر، والساعة 1 بتوقيت الإمارات. يحاضرنا في هذه الجلسة القادمة الدكتور مروان الشويكي في جلسة بعنوان جولة عبر الكون.